Okay, let's get right into this. For the longest time, we've thought of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates as two peas in a pod, right? Inseparable partners, basically shaping the future of the Middle East together. But turns out, a pretty serious rivalry has been simmering just beneath the surface, and wow, it just exploded into the open in the most dramatic way you can imagine.
So picture this. It's the very end of the year in the super strategic port city of Mukalla. Something happens that sends absolute shockwaves across the entire region. An event that pits ally against ally.
Yep, you heard that correctly. The Saudi-led coalition launched airstrikes on weapons and armored vehicles. And who sent them? Their closest partner, the UAE. Riyadh claimed they were being illegally supplied to proxy forces. I mean, we are talking about a direct military confrontation between two of the world's most powerful allies. It's wild.
So the big question is, how on earth did we get to this point? To figure this out, we have to unravel this really complicated web of shifting alliances, competing ambitions, and a civil war that has basically created another war inside of itself. Let's dive in. Okay, first things first. You have to understand that this isn't, Saudi soldiers fighting Emirati soldiers directly on the ground. No, this is a proxy conflict. It's being fought by Yemeni groups who have very, very different ideas for what their country should look like.
So here's the thing. While the whole world has been focused on the big war against the Houthi rebels, another fight has been brewing right inside the coalition that was supposed to be united against them. It's a battle between two totally different Yemeni factions.
On one side, you've got the Southern Transitional Council, or the STC. These guys are a powerful, well-armed separatist group, and they're funded and trained by the UAE. Their goal? It's pretty straightforward. They want to break away and bring back South Yemen as its own independent country, just like it was before 1990.
And then on the other side is the Presidential Leadership Council, or PLC. Now this is the government that the rest of the world actually recognizes. Their main backer is Saudi Arabia, and their main goal is the exact opposite of the STCs. They want to keep Yemen as one single, unified country. You can already see where the trouble starts, right?
All right, so how did a partnership that strong just completely fall apart? Well, this huge blow-up didn't happen overnight, not at all. This was a slow burn, a gradual split in what they each wanted that finally just hit a breaking point.
To really get how deep this goes, we need to rewind a little bit and look at a few key moments that took us from being a solid, united team to, well, this.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. Saudi Arabia and the UAE walked into this war together, shoulder to shoulder, but they wanted totally different things out of it. For Riyadh, it was all about securing its border and keeping Yemen in one piece. For Abu Dhabi, it was about locking down southern ports, trade routes, and fighting Islamist groups. They were literally fighting the same war with completely different playbooks. It was bound to blow up eventually.
So let's go all the way back to 2015. This is where it all started. At the time, these two Gulf powers were completely in sync. They led a massive coalition into Yemen with one shared mission: push back the Houthis and restore the government. It was a moment of absolute unity.
But fast forward to 2019, and the cracks really started to show. Big time. The UAE's guys, the STC, violently took over the temporary capital, Aden, from the Saudi-backed government. The infighting got so ugly that the Saudis themselves had to step in and basically force their allies to sign a truce, the Riyadh Agreement, just to get them to stop shooting at each other.
Which brings us to today. In late 2025, the STC launched a surprise offensive, grabbing huge chunks of oil-rich territory in eastern Yemen, right up near the Saudi border. For Riyadh, that was a massive red line. You just don't do that. The response was fast and furious, an airstrike on the UAE-supplied weapons heading to the STC. The proxy war was finally out in the open for everyone to see.
Okay, so here's a really crucial point to understand. This is so much bigger than just Yemen. What we're seeing in Yemen is basically just one battlefield in a much larger, undeclared contest for who gets to call the shots across the entire Middle East.
And if you start looking around the region, you see this pattern playing out everywhere. Look at Sudan. They're backing opposite sides in a brutal civil war. They've been butting heads over oil production quotas at OPEC. And there's a growing economic rivalry, with Saudi Arabia working hard to pull international business away from the UAE's hub in Dubai.
This quote from World Affairs by Unacademy just nails it. The competition for who gets to be the top dog in the region is starting to overpower their long history as allies, and Yemen is where the consequences of that are becoming the most dangerous.
So, where do we go from here? With these two critical allies now at odds, what happens to Yemen? What happens to the fight against the Houthis, and for that matter, to the stability of a region that is absolutely vital for global trade.
Look, the risks here are absolutely massive. This infighting could spark a full-blown civil war between the anti-Houthi factions themselves. It could throw strategic areas like the Red Sea into chaos, and it basically rolls out the red carpet for extremist groups like Al-Qaeda to make a comeback.
And you know who benefits from all this chaos? There's really only one big winner here: their common enemy. With the coalition fighting itself, the Houthi movement just got stronger. This division gives them the perfect opportunity to consolidate their power, maybe even grab some new territory while their opponents are distracted.
And this whole situation puts the UAE in a really tricky spot diplomatically. See, the major world powers, the US, the UK, they all want to see a stable, unified Yemen. The UAE's strategy of backing southern separatists goes completely against that, isolating them on the world stage and just adding more pressure to an already tense situation.
So you have to wonder, is this it? Is this the end of one of the most vital alliances in the Middle East and the start of a new kind of Cold War for the region? As these two powers drift further and further apart, their rivalry threatens to draw new lines in the sand. And whether they can pull back from the brink, well, that remains the most critical question for the future of the entire region.